then we have Councillor Tyler, who's going to tell us about multicultural portfolio report.
Come, guys. So we're bringing some staff to the table too, which is Viviana and Claire. If it pleases the council, I'd love for them to introduce themselves just before I start on the report, if that's all right.
That's on, yeah. Kia ora koutou, I'm Claire Phillips, Manager of Community Planning Team.
Kia ora, my name is Viviana. I'm the Community Development Advisor with the portfolio of multiculturalism.
Cool. And in light of that, I'd like to firstly acknowledge these two. It's been a very busy time in this space, particularly with all the plan changes and all the things going on within the city. So they've sort of been holding me up, to be honest with you, with this portfolio. And they've produced an amazing report alongside myself, and it's really appreciated. Thank you so much. So first of all, I want to start by acknowledging that the multicultural portfolio is built by multiple strategies. One of them is the strengthening community strategy, the multicultural strategy, which former councillor Jimmy Chen was front-footing alongside Claire and staff, and also the multicultural implementation plan, or the action plan. And reflecting upon that, there may need to be some updating after this triennium. The multicultural community is growing at a pretty steady rate, with descendants from, the European descendants, Kiwis, slightly dropping, but the multicultural community is growing at a steady rate across the board, all the way from Melanesia to the Asias to the Africas, and also the Māori population is growing within the city. And the citizenship ceremonies reflect that massive intake. I'd also like to highlight the welcoming communities, which we've brought into around a year ago, from the top of my head. And we recently pushed through something called Welcoming Week, and also wanted to bring on board Jenny Jing, who's the new Welcoming Communities Coordinator, from the top of my head, I think that's the name, who's doing amazing work in that space. The MAG still meet regularly, the Multicultural Advisory Group. After the Multicultural Committee was disestablished and turned into the advisory group has been providing advice to staff and also showing where the issues lie. There were some issues in relation to the effects of climate change and also funding opportunities, which are slowly, they're steady, but as per the inflation rate, we're a bit behind in that space. Culture Galore is the next event, which will be its last at Raybank Blank Park, and then a new venue is going to be sitting. I wanted to acknowledge the two community boards that and the staff that were able to push that through for so many years. It's been a phenomenal event, absolutely massive, and it gave businesses opportunities to showcase their food, where they're from, and also the performances to be able to highlight their culture. And you'll see the events that I've attended, and there's been some more since August. This has obviously been, this report has been quite some time in the making, but there's been quite a few more events that I've attended, and staff have also been attending quite a lot of events in the multicultural space. Last thing around the state of the sector, that's regarding to part 7 on the report. There's been a restructure in the Ministry of Ethnic Communities, and they've downsized, and there's been refocusing in terms of their priorities, and it's mainly focusing around the economic development of our ethnic communities. They did do a lot of work within the March 15 attack saga, and now the restructure has sort of got them to be a bit more agile and flexible, and there is quite a lot of challenges in this space at the moment. The March 15 memorial is something that's been raised quite a lot in regards to where we're going to acknowledge our shahada, or the families of the victims of the March 15 mosque attack. And that's going to be headed up by the Ministry of Culture and Heritage. And the last part that I wanted to just talk over was the soft launch, and I'm going to actually leave it to staff to talk about the soft launch of the name Te Ngira, which is a beautiful name that was gifted to us by the old man, if he's around here somewhere. And and that's going to be the new name of the Multicultural Centre. But I would like to hand it over to either Claire or Viviana to talk about the name and the form of it.
Well, I'd just like to thank you, Piri, for the gift of the name Tanera, which translates into the needle, and the weaving of the red, white and black strands, which exemplifies what we're trying to achieve in terms of building a multicultural society. So we've waited for a while to have that name bestowed upon the centre, and it's really apt, so we appreciate it very, very much. There'll be a blessing and an unveiling of the signage at the centre in due course in the early, in the new year. Yeah. So again, thank you.
And Tanera is a beautiful name, and it's got a great melody to it. And in the report, it refers to King Potatauti Whirowhiro, who has now recently passed, and they've now have a new member of the royal family taking that head. And now I would like to just, if I've missed anything, I don't want to miss anything here, just hand it over to staff, and then I'd open up for questions, if that's all right.
We would, I'd probably open it up to questions. I think you've ably highlighted some of the key issues. If there's anything that councillors would like to know, hopefully we can respond.
Thank you. I went to the Polish Christmas last Sunday, which was absolutely fantastic. They said it was the first time that they had used the facilities for their Christmas. It was absolutely fantastic. What I wanted to know is, do you reach out to various groups that haven't connected with you so far and sort of say, hey, look, we've got this facility, you're welcome to use it as well? Is that something that you actively do?
We have a newsletter that goes out monthly, and we have a quite long mailing list, about 750 names in the mailing list. So we are reaching out quite widely, and there is also an effort in meeting and connecting with the groups. The centre has been used really, really widely. There is still capacity. I'm not saying that there is no space, but for being the first year, I'm really pleased with the outcome. During the weekends, it's almost impossible to find a space available. We have still capacity during the week. What we don't have at the moment is the recurrent bookings. We have some, but it has been open in March, so it was open in March, so we have still time. But yes, definitely we go out and reach out to the wider communities through also the networks, the Info Network, the MAG, and other networks.
Thank you. The Gilberthorpe's Road property was originally purchased as a multicultural space, and since we've sort of passed that property off the agenda at council, we've had quite a lot of interest from a number of multicultural groups. Is that a space that you might see going forward as potentially being something that we could look at repurposing back to its original purpose? Just an interesting thought.
Perhaps, Councillor, because there's an existing process that we're working through on behalf of council, it's pretty unfair for these staff to answer.
Okay.
We could take that on notice, and that
Yeah.
can come back from John and myself.
Yep, no, that'd be good, thanks.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you. I was just obviously we've got some new census data coming out, and I'm just wondering if there's a point at which stage we kind of can get an update on what's happening in terms of the key indicators for the different ethnic communities within our city, or multicultural.
Absolutely, and the community profiles for each of the community ward areas are due to be completed in February, end of February, March, and aspects of the new census information, including ethnicity, will be within the community profiles and some of the analysis that drills down to ward. if we can get that information. There's some sort of general citywide demographic information. Getting more bespoke ward-related information can sometimes be a little bit harder, but we work with our monitoring and research team to get that information, and we're hoping to run a workshop as well in the new year to unpack what that means, what some of those statistics mean for our city. Yeah.
Okay, and I was keen to know whether there's been any work done in the housing space for the multicultural sector. I note with our Plan Change 14, for example, there was no analysis of Pacific needs, and yet they're one of the communities that has the highest rates or the lowest rates of home ownership. So I'm just thinking of the work that you do, if there's a way, a work stream that you can input into in terms of understanding what's happening in terms of housing, affordable housing, and I mean the whole housing spectrum really, but just so we can understand the trends of what the issues are.
And some of that information will be available in the census information too, and it'll be part of all unpacking that.
Yeah.
But in terms of engaging with the other units of council that are working in that housing space, that's something that we can focus on as well, more intentionally.
I could take that on notice too, and have a yarn with Claire and the team to talk about what the direction may be for the Pacifica community in particular, but many other communities that are currently having an uptick in different areas. Also noting that the refugee and migrants are also moving across suburbs, and there are in particular starting off in rentals after a few years. Once they establish themselves, they tend to be first home buyers. So there's a lot of things that we could probably nut out in terms of opportunities, and the city may be able to reflect that.
Yeah, I would welcome that. You know, obviously with the Filipino community, we saw a lot of exploitation when they came over to work on our rebuild, and some of the housing conditions were absolutely atrocious. And so anything we can do to understand the challenges and the issues and how we can assist would be good.
And noting that, Yanni, there have been a couple of things around migrant exploitation, which obviously will not be in the report, but there have been small community groups talking about actually what these are their words, what Western culture perceive as bad living, if you will, where they're actually happy to be under a roof. But on the other side of that, migrant exploitation is definitely out there, particularly for those that don't have as much of a voice. And there are different communities and cultures, which I won't talk about in this meeting, that have also raised that to me, particularly in the eastern suburbs and also in the west, particularly around my area, which tend to have a lot of workers, particularly around large capital projects.
Okay. So, right. So, you're obviously happy to move this. Yes, I'm more than happy to second it. Now, I must say, one thing I did do with Claire the other day, we went round to the to visit the Prime Minister of Samoa was here, and for an Ava ceremony that and Sina, a council staff member, she jacked it up, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. I still am amazed how 25 men of about my age and sometimes slightly bigger can sit on the floor for an hour and a half with their legs crossed and still be able to get up and walk after that beyond that. But it was a fantastic. It was a fantastic day. So thank you for and you and Sina for getting us around there. So with that, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Brilliant. Thank you very much. That's carried. Okay.